Hey everybody. You know, I think it's kind of surprising that, well, you see the title down below. Pretty much a lot of people have been talking about this for the past week or so. I think ever since it got announced, I'm trying to see here, according to Archie Sonic Online, ever since the second, so basically for the past 5 days, a lot of people have been talking about this. You see, it seems that Sega and Archie have another lawsuit on their hands. This time over the character of Mammoth Mogul, and it's a lawsuit filed by Narrative Arc Entertainment, NAE, Narrative Arc Entertainment, and it's by, as we look a little down here, it's a company owned or currently run by Scott Fulop, or Fulop, yeah, who I guess is a former creator and writer. Now, according to some of the information we are gathering, it's basically along the same reasons as to why Ken Penders was suing Archie Comics. Archie Comics, Archie Comics and Sega. Basically, Scott Fulop is not getting any royalties for the use or reuse of his characters. Basically, what I mean by reuse is the reprints in the graphic novels, the archives, the digest, you name it. So he hasn't been getting any royalties for that. Now, a lot of people might side with him and say, well, he's in the right for that. And that is true. But according to the information TSSZ gathered, this lawsuit was filed on August 2nd by Narrative Arc Entertainment, a New York domestic limited liability company. The issue seems to be about copyrights. Now, according to TSSZ, when they first published this, basically, it could be related to Ken Penders, but Ken Penders, in another article that TSSZ put out, basically, I think has mentioned, and I think he mentioned this on his Twitter. If I can find it here. He took to his Twitter. Like I said, he took to his Twitter, and according to the article they put up the day after TSSZ, it basically is headlined with Ken Pender stating that he is not involved with the filing by Archie, he's not involved with the Archie/Narrative Arc lawsuit. In other words, has nothing to gain with it. He basically points out to someone called Team Random 21. Basically, he mentions this, and I think it got to Ken Penders because, of course, when you go to Twitter, you can put at Ken Penders or whatever. Penders says he's not involved with the following. What happens is anybody's guess. Now, other people like Kyle Linsky, Kyle Lunskin at X2234 Kyle asked him if he wanted to care to comment, and he said basically Ken Penders in a Twitter response, he has no acknowledge of what's in the filing. He can only speculate. He does suspect both sides will try to drag him into the mess. Now he does say when Kyle responds back to him, so he doesn't intend to get involved. So he basically when Kyle asks, that basically points out that it seems Penders doesn't want to be involved. Penders does say, however, that he suspects he will be involved one way or another, as he's rounded up several freelancers who never signed any contracts. Now TSSZ News on Twitter asked him if he was named as a plaintiff in the suit filed on Monday, and he basically says he is not. But Ken Penders suspects he will be called upon as a witness should this go to trial. So basically, Ken Penders is not involved with the lawsuit, but he's basically speculating himself that he's probably, because of the similarity, may get called upon may be called upon as a witness because of the similarity. Now, I kind of find it ironic, and I'm going to read off other articles TSSZ put out, but I do kind of find it ironic that Scott Fulop is doing this now for his narrative arc entertainment. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've never heard of narrative arc entertainment, and if it is a domesticated limited liability company, then that kind of tells me it's just recently new. In other words, Scott's trying to get it off the ground, and pretty much he looks at the possibility of, hey, I could file a copyright claim, a lawsuit against Archie and Sega, get some money out of it to help fund my narrative arc entertainment. I mean, I'm not trying to say Ken Penders did this as well, but honestly, how do you think he got some of his Laura Sue Chronicles off the ground? Now, here's something else. The next article that was published on the 3rd by TSSZ says, Archie lawsuit documents. Scott Fulop who is the plaintiff, cites almost 1,000 examples of not illegal, but Scott Fulop. It says, okay, let me restart here. It says Archie lawsuit documents. Scott Fulop is plaintiff, cites almost 1,000 examples of alleged copyright infringement in comics. Now, according to TSSZ, this is what they found out, and I quote, "We've received a tip from the shadow interpreter containing the complaint documents on the recent Archie lawsuit. The plaintiff, mentioned as Narrative Arc Entertainment organizer Scott Fulop, is citing 6 counts of illegal activities by Archie Comics and Sega, including copyright infringement, violations of the Layman Act, deceptive practices, unjust enrichment, and more. Fulop is apparently citing infringement on Sonic comics spanning from 1996 that is, to 2012, and claiming republished an original work going up to 2009. There are, and they put this in bold letters, there are 953 cited examples of alleged copyright infringement in comics, printed and digital. This includes 441 alleged infringements of over 348 re-releases of the main Sonic comic series. That being, of course, the reprints, the graphic novels, digital digest, you name it. Fulop's attorney is Nell Burstein, who is high profile and has several top-tier IP and entertainment clients. Fulop is demanding a trial by jury as well. Now they go on to say that the civil action. This is a civil. This is a civil action seeking damages and injunctive relief for copyright infringement under the Copyright Act of the United States. Basically, all the information we know about that. Now they go on to mention that if you don't know what the Layman Act is, it is the primary federal trademark statute or stature of law in the United States that prohibits a number of activities, including trademark infringement, trademark dilution, and false advertising. The claimant, or the claimant mentions the following characters as being part of his original work: Mammoth Mogul, Sergeant Simeon, Lightning Lynx, Predator Hawk, Flying Frog, the Fearsome Foursome, which is a group of the characters just mentioned, with the exception of Mammoth. Merlin Prower, Sir Connery, the Mighty Crusader, Black Death, which I kind of find is a little ironic, Enchantress, Mathis Poe, Democracies, the Elder, the Swords of Acorns, the Sword of Light, the Land of Dark, Fly Freddy. Now, TSSD does mention that indeed Ken Penders has no involvement in the filing. However, Penders' own account, along with his lawsuit, is cited, and that is in a couple of them. And it says, number 24, upon information and belief, Kenneth Penders also worked as a freelance writer-artist for defendant ACP, Archie Comics Publications, for over 12 years. It says 25, Fulop knew Penders from Fulop's prior employment as staff editor for the defendant Archie Comics Publications when he regularly engaged Penders' services on behalf of the defendant as a freelance writer-artist. He goes on to say, after his tenure as a staff editor for defendant Archie Comics, Fulop collaborated as a co-author with Penders on many freelance writing projects for defendant Archie Comic Publications, in addition to Fulop's solo assignments for defendant Archie Comics. On information and belief, none of the checks or payments, or none, on information, okay, the 28th one, on information and belief, none of the checks or payment vouchers that either Fulop or Penders received from defendant Archie Comics in payment of the work contained any legal language or notices concerning copyrights, work for hire, or a transfer of rights to defendant Archie Comics, or to defendant Sega. Nor did any of the correspondence concerning Fulop or Penders' story ideas or the approvals relating thereto contain or have such terms or language. '29. When Fulop submitted freelance story ideas or work including the creation of new and original characters for Archie Comics, at no time did he ever have any discussion with anyone at Archie Comics concerning the issue of copyright ownership or the concept of work for hire, nor was Fulop ever aware of Penders ever having such a conversation with defendant Archie Comics. 32. Fulop uses the writing Posorium, basically disguised name, Kent Taylor when submitting. Okay, number 32. Fulop uses the writing Posorium, basically false name, Kent Taylor when submitting work to defendant Archie Comics and working with Penders and other writers on the Sonic comic book series. Now, if you want to know, that's pseudo name. In other words, that's like an alternative name. That's a alter ego name, if you will, like a name you use in disguise. Number 35. Therefore, Penders informed Fulop that Defendant Archie Comics was beginning to reprint certain stories written solely by Fulop, reprint certain stories written and or illustrated solely by Penders, reprint certain stories co-written by Fulop and Penders, reprint certain stories co-written by Fulop, Penders, and other writers, as well as continuing to use some of the respective new and original characters in new stories and other media. On information and belief, and according to the U.S. Copyright Office records, Penders filed and obtained copyright registrations in 2009 and 10 for certain stories written or illustrated by Penders, in some instances co-written by Fulop, and in some instances co-written by Fulop and other writers during the mutual tenure as freelance writers, artists, curators, the Penders copyright registrations. And 4 of said copyright registrations list Fulop as one of the copyright claimants, an instance where Fulop was one of the writers. On information and belief, Penders attempted to obtain remuneration from Defendant Archie Comics for the various works and original characters he created as a freelance writer and artist, and which were being used in new stories as well as his original stories being reprinted by Defendant Archie Comics. But Defendant Archie Comics refused to make any payments. 41. On information and belief, Defendant Archie Comics commenced litigation in the United States District Court for the Southern District against Penders, seeking, among other causes of action, to evaluate the Penders copyright registrations. Penders counterclaimed against Archie Comics for copyright infringement, among other claims. This litigation was assigned case number 10 CIV 08858. Number 42. On information and belief, Judge Berman of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York formally dismissed the action commenced by Defendant Archie Comics against Penders. 43. On information and belief, there was no jurisdictional determination in said action commenced by Defendant Archie Comics and Penders, affecting the validating of any of the Penders copyright registrations, and Penders retained ownership of all the Penders copyrights at issue in the litigation. Now that was basically everything you would find like on one of those court information deals with lawyers and public records and all that. Now, TSSZ mentions not only is Archie cited for wrongdoing with copywriting, but Sega too. Now, they say they'll be updating you more on the latest, but this looks bad, especially for Archie and the Sonic comics. Now, the other one they brought up is something that Fulop brought up as well. Now, before I talk about this one, here's the thing. Here's the one thing that really gets me. Like I said, I think it's kind of ironic that Scott Fulop is doing this now. And he didn't decide to, I don't know, maybe register a copyright for his characters and stories. Maybe in the last year he was working with them as a freelance writer. You don't think maybe he should have done that and then submitted it so that Archie Comics, maybe if they wanted to, would probably have to get his permission? I think it's so kind of ironic that this is happening now, and it's being filed under his company's name, not his name, but his company's name, which, again, I'm pretty sure, like a lot of you, I've never heard of until now. So, continuing on, the next article that was published on the 3rd was Fulop lawsuit alleges letter to Archie sparked failed settlement negotiation. It says, and I quote, and this is by article by Tristan Oliver, it says, and I quote, a letter sent to Archie Comics by the attorney representing Scott Fulop's company, Narrative Arc Entertainment, warned Archie they were in violation of copyrights held by Fulop as the back Sonic comic catalog was being sold digitally. Okay, so maybe he did file copyright. I don't, but we'll have to wait and see. That letter, continuing on, and I quote, that letter is one exhibit submitted as part of the civil complaint filed to U.S. District Court Monday in New York against Archie Comics, provided to TSSZ by tipster the Shadow Impersonator. The details of the case are eerily familiar to those who followed Ken Penders' lawsuit against Archie. Fulop secured the copyrights to many characters, storylines, and artwork he allegedly created while working for the Sonic comics, and is now seeking back payments for the use of those characters in republished issues. Fulop alleges no enforceable work-for-hire agreement precluded him from filing for those rights. The letter, dated October 6, 2015, says, according to the civil complaint, and I quote the letter, and as they quoted it, quote the letter, I guess you could say, and this is quoting the letter, that the use of the plaintiff's copyright works by defendant Archie Comics publication in various digital reprints, as well as publishing numerous editions in both paper and digital version, was without consent and infringing on plaintiff's registered copyrights as well as in violation of other statutes. Okay, so he did register a copyright, so that takes care of that. Now, continuing on, Tristan Oliver reports, the primary source corroborates that information. An expert from the letter penned by Fulop attorney Neil Bernstein warned Archie they were in violation of 12 registrations approved by the U.S. Copyrights Office. And this is what the letter that Neil, Scott's attorney, put out. And I quote the letter by Neil, by Scott's attorney. It has come to our client's attention that Archie Comics Publications, ACP, has been or is in the process of making digital reprints of original comics featuring the Fulop works, as well as publishing numerous editions in both paper and digital version, which contain reprints of his stories and include such volumes as the Sonic Archives, Sonic Select, Sonic Comics, Sonic Universe, Sonic Legacy, Super Sonic Digest, Sonic Super Special Magazine, and Best of Sonic, to name a few. In addition, most of the characters originally created by Mr. Fulop and now owned by Narrative have continued to be used by writers and artists in Archie Comic ACP publications, including advertisements for new titles from the Sonic graphic novel library. Further, the aforementioned unauthorized use of the characters and concepts have in turn been reprinted in various medias and formats, including those listed above, and others such as the Sonic Legacy series. To date, Fulop has received no royalties or payment for reprint page rates or received any forms of compensation from ACP's continued and unlicensed use of Fulop's works. Now, Tristan concludes his article for TSSZ by saying, the letter, according to the complaint, prompted extended settlement negotiations that did not yield a resolution. As previously reported, our analysis of the complaint shows Fulop alleging some 953 infringements across 705 Archie Sonic comic releases and re-releases, many of them digital. Okay, well, when I read that, yeah, it doesn't look so good for the Sonic comics from a digital standpoint. And what I mean from a digital standpoint is it doesn't look good for like the reprints. And For any of us that are wondering if we'll get a reference to Black Death again in another Shadow Universe, Sonic Universe story featuring Shadow, if this goes through, forget it. It'll be like it never happened. But again, to me, I just find it kind of ironic. I just find it ironic that all of a sudden here's this company that he has called Narrative Arc Entertainment that just pops out of nowhere now is a domestic limited liability company, and now all of a sudden he's filing for copyrights when he could have easily done this when some of his stories and artwork started in characters, I should say, story, artwork, and characters started showing up in the reprints. He could have easily done this long ago, but he didn't. You know why? My opinion, I believe he's doing this because he's trying to get money for his company. You know, it would have made more sense if this started happening. If he wanted to file a lawsuit, he could have filed it at the same time Penders did. They could have both got what they wanted. But that didn't happen, did it? He had to wait. And again, I think it's about the fact he's trying to get money for his company. Maybe I'm wrong, but don't you find it kind of ironic, folks? I mean, all of a sudden, he wants to get money for his company? I mean, not company, but all of a sudden he wants to get money and royalties that, yes, he is due, maybe, because he did register copyrights for his characters and stories, but don't you feel it's kind of ironic that he's doing it now when he could have done it, I don't know, when Penders maybe did it, so that he can make sure, hey, I'm not going to lose out on getting paid for you guys reusing or reprinting my stories or characters or referencing my stories or characters? You don't think he shouldn't have done it then? I think he should have. He would have gotten it out of the way, but no. He's doing it now. And you know why? You know why? Because he's desperate for money for his company. That's the only reason. I mean, raise your hand whether or not you have heard of Narrative Arc Entertainment. I sure haven't. So to me, I think this is just another excuse by a former freelance artist that has gone off to do their own thing to get money for their own company and projects. And we look at Penders. Do you think he could get all this advertisement and maybe some interest and whatever off the ground for the lawsuit Chronicles if he didn't do what he did? Of course not. So my opinion is I just think it's too ironic. I know I say that a lot, so I do apologize. But I think it's just too ironic that he's filing for a lawsuit now for his characters, when he could have done this long ago to make sure he had some say in getting royalties and all that. At least come up with some kind of agreement. Meet with them and say, hey, I'm leaving. I know you're going to probably reuse my stories and reprints. Let's make a deal. Let's cut a deal. Do that or something. Get his lawyer, Neil Bernstein, to do that, to cut a deal or something. But they didn't. All this is, in my opinion, folks, is an excuse for him to get money for his company. You know, Scott, if you're listening, there's a thing called Indiegogo and Kickstarter. Ever hear of those? I'm just saying. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is legitimately about getting royalties and payments for the reprints and all that, which he probably is owed since he registered copyrights? Or do you think he's doing this just as an excuse to get money for his company when he could have easily done it years ago, maybe when he was starting up his company and not now? Or maybe when he started to venture on his own? Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. I'll provide the links if you want them, and I'll talk to y'all later.